Hello and welcome to my nature diaries. As you can see, I was on the trail and wow, winter is really hard sometimes to get inspiration for a nature journal, but on our hike we found an American sycamore tree, and actually we found those little fruit pods, and I thought I would love to journal some winter trees. So I'm going to be doing that today, and I'm going to be hopefully teaching you how at least I start with drawing a diagram of a tree. Using a reference photo I took myself, and these are great ideas to be able to see the shape. So you can see it's a popsicle shape, and if you get a picture of a tree from a distance, it really does help you be able to see and be able to tell like where to start when you're drawing something, especially in nature. And I'm using a micron pen for this, just to show up in the camera better. But normally I would use a pencil and just draw that really simple shape that you see. Drawing the tree trunk in the middle, I'm going to just really start working on these branches, and I'm going to hold this pen loosely. Again, I would use a pencil if you're practicing so you can erase those lines, but just loosely holding it, it helps you to make more loose organic shapes, not super symmetrical, asymmetrical a little bit. You're really trying to practice not looking uniform or symmetrical, because we tend to want to draw that way, and nature really isn't always, that's not how it looks. So it makes it look more realistic. So taking that idea, we're going to do that here. I'll show you, but before we do that, I'm going to put a background in. I used a background in the first part of this entry, and so to get started, I'm going to take that really wide flat brush, whatever you have, the biggest one, and clean water. I am just going to completely, not soak, but I'm going to get this paper pretty wet, and I'm leaving that one small area at the top left dry so I can work on that separately, but I really want it to glisten, the water to glisten on the paper. Then grabbing some yellow ochre, I'm just thinning it down a little bit on, and this is a wet on wet technique, and this paper isn't, again, the best paper to do this with, but it's not too bad actually, as long as I don't overwork the paper too much. It tends to hold up okay. And I'm just adding this yellow ochre, and I'm really hitting the sides with it. You know, watercolor does tend to dry very light, so I wanted to make sure that I don't know, I like that vignette kind of look on my pages, so you can decide what you like, but that's exactly what I like. And then I will be taking that tape off, that washi tape off, and we'll see what that looks like when it's done. All right, and here is another reference photo I took of the sycamore tree. It's a close-up of the top of the tree, some bark that these trees are known for their barks to shed or to come off. And so what I'm going to do is I loosely sketched it already over there and put in a light blue background, and now I'm just taking some of my browns in my palette, Windsor Newton Cotman colored palette. I believe this is burnt umber. I'll be doing burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, and then yellow ochre, a little bit of that, and Payne's gray, you'll see. And I'm just really kind of throwing on colors. I'm not really thinking a whole lot about it. And you can see later on, there's my palette. And later on, I did decide to just kind of do a wash of the lightest shade there. And then I'm just continuing to just dab on, fill in. With every layer that I'm adding, I'm using less water. So the first layer is pretty wet and loose, but then as I continue on, I'm really doing more wet on dry, and the color is getting more and more concentrated. And then any sharp lines, of course, I can blend out, but that's just a little bit of a tip, and I believe I'm using my number 6 brush on that as well. Now that this side is dry, we're going to work on it, and I have a micron I could use for this project, but I'm going to use my dip pen instead. I like the nib variation on it, and there's my Kuretake super black ink, and this ink is waterproof, so that's why I like to use it. When drawing in ink, what I like to do is I like to break up the lines, and I really want it to just be very loose and free, and I like to also use the finest lines that I can put down. That's why I do like this dip pen. But if you're using a micron pen, then you can definitely just go with a smaller nib size and then work your way up, because I can always go back and thicken it up later, which I will do, and so it's going to look a little messy, but that's just how I like to start it out, because if there's something that I don't like or it just looks too flowy, I don't want it to look like a soft limb. I want it to have rigidity and to look like, you know, wood. So it's a way to help me portray that and make it feel a little bit more natural and real. For this particular tree, what I'm going to be doing is just showing a two-dimensional view. So I'm not going to be drawing any branches coming out towards us, which would be, you know, more natural, realistic. This is more of an illustration to portray a side view of it, so you can see the shape. I really am trying to get that shape and overall look to it, so I can identify it again when we're, you know, hiking or on the trail. I'm going to go ahead and finish now with the close-up section of the bark, and I'm using, as you can see, my pen to finish this section up as well. I'm just going underneath different areas to show shadows, like the bark is peeling away from the tree trunk, and so there would be some shadow under there. You could do this with watercolor and a fine liner watercolor brush, but I really love the pen and ink, and it's faster, and I just like the look of it. So I'm going to go ahead and finish that up, adding details, and I'll actually probably tweak it afterwards. Even after this video, I tend to go back and notice things that I didn't see before, but I am trying to just make it look realistic, but you know, it doesn't have to be hyper realistic. Now that we're done with that, I'm just going to be adding on some quick layers of color, just real light. I'm starting out watery, and then on this tree trunk, and as I did before, I'll be adding some more colors, some richer colors. I'll be adding them. They won't be as wet, it'll be more saturated colors, so it can build up the layers on this tree. This is my favorite field guide. It's a local one for trees, and I'm going to be using some of the information out of it to journal in my entry here. And I wanted to let you know that when you are making a nature journal, that it can be very personal. It doesn't have to be like, I'm not just writing all scientific information here. I am writing some facts, but I'm also writing in here what I found, maybe something that I can add to the field guide that I have, which I almost always find. So I think it's important to know that, like, nature journaling that's why I like to call it my nature diary, because sometimes I just record things that I'm finding, my discoveries, and even with this particular tree, I found some things to add to the field guide that was in it. So feel free to make it your own entry whenever you nature journal. I just want to take a moment now and invite you, if you haven't already, to subscribe and comment, like. I would love to hear from you, and follow me if you're interested in nature journaling or just nature and art and creativity. I love it all. So yeah, please feel free to be a part of this little nature diary, nature journaling community, and I'd love, like I said, to hear from you for sure. It's hard to believe that I have another entry done. I'm really getting close to being finished with this, my first official nature diary, nature journal, and I have another small one. I have a bullet journal that's like that, and I just bought a large journal to be able to do some kind of different entries. So I'm really into this, as you can see. And I hope that you are inspired to get outside. Hopefully the weather is decent enough for you at least to be able to take a little quick walk and find something. Never be afraid to look down, because when I found those little seed pods, that's when I looked up and found the tree, and it's how this whole thing started. So I hope it was encouraging and inspirational to you as well. Hey, Happy New Year to you, and here's to a year full of health, love, and of course, lots of art. And until we meet again, just remember you're amazing and creative. Bye.